Hi everyone, let's go over my bullish and bearish Elliott wave scenarios on Bitcoin, starting with the most bearish scenario where we are looking for a bigger 5-wave impulsive structure to the downside, after which we then get a retracement towards the upside. Now in this case, we then start this impulse to the downside with a 1-1-1-2, which is an impulse wave 1, a 5-wave structure, 3-wave 2, 5-wave 1, 3-wave 2, another 5-wave 1, a 3-wave 2, and then we continue to the downside looking for a wave 3, which usually is the wave that has the highest amount of volume, which at the moment is true in this move towards the downside, since 65k, the most recent 4-hour candle that closed, has the highest amount of volume, and preferably this wave 3 also extends and is quite long, which is not yet the case, so that is something we have to look out for. Now after a wave 3, we are then looking for a wave 4, 5, 4, 5, and another 4, 5. And when we then finish the final 5 in red, we can look for that retracement towards the upside. Now the invalidation for this scenario is price taking out this high here at 57k, and if we are looking for a wave 3 towards the downside and then a wave 4 to start, another thing that you can do to invalidate a wave 4 is to take a Fibonacci from the start to the end of your wave 3. So we have to wait and see how low price is going before we start a range. It is almost weekend, and the weekend is notorious for sideways structures, so we could start a wave 4 during the weekend. But what you want to do is take a Fibonacci from the start to the end of this move until we then start ranging, toggle on the 0.618, and the 0.618 is an invalidation for your wave 4. If price, however, would move up to the 0.618, yes, it invalidates a wave 4, but there is always that potential for another 1-2. So therefore, this would be a soft invalidation. Taking out the high here at 57k would be a hard invalidation. If we go to the 3-minute time frame, then on the 3-minute time frame, you can see that price has touched the 886. Price made a low, moved to the upside, came back down again, it touched the 886. Now the 886 is a very rare target for a wave 2, common for a wave B or a wave X, increasing the probabilities for price to take out this low. Beautiful timing, almost as if it was planned, to take out that low after we then get a bit of a move towards the upside here. So the 886, rare for 2, common for B or X, increasing probabilities to still take out this low. What is also quite common after an 886 touch is price moving back towards the golden pocket. You can see it happening here, and then eventually we took the low, so that is actually very, very nice. Now price took out this low, so now we have to wait and see again what type of structures we're going to get locally. Now if we then go to the 4-hour time frame again, and look at some bullish scenarios and talk about the probabilities of these scenarios, you will see that it's not too easy to give like the highest probabilities to the most bullish scenario where we basically made a low and we move towards the upside. So your first scenario here is a diagonal. In this case, we then have a 5-wave structure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, looking to finish the final ABC to the downside inside this wave 5. We are in the common target for wave 5, which is the 1 to the 1.236 trend-based fib extension, taken from the start to the end of A to the end of B. Lowest target here, 53.4k, but your invalidation is 52.8k. And that is important because if we look at the support resistance areas here, we are now ranging below this support area here, which I now made wide, and the next support area to the downside literally has the invalidation at the top of the box. So at the moment, it's difficult to give this scenario the highest probability as long as we don't see any local signs of strength. Now we just had the 886 touch, of course, which is a sign of weakness. This has now played out, but we are still below resistance, not seeing any local signs of strength. So therefore, the fact that we are now below resistance here, of course, increases the probabilities for price to move to the next support, but that would also invalidate this scenario. So that is something to be aware of. After a diagonal, you would look for a move back towards the upside, at least a retracement to look for some resistance again. Another scenario on the chart over here is a scenario where we actually first move to the downside, and the final scenario is also a scenario where we first move to the downside. So actually these are in confluence with the most bearish scenario I've shown at the beginning. But these are still bullish, and this is the reason why. In this scenario here, we're looking for a three-wave structure to the downside, a WXY, ABC, correction in X, and another ABC to the downside. Currently working on the final wave is C here in blue, a 1, 2, looking for a 3, a 4, and a 5. And here you see the 0.618 on my chart again, taken from the high of 2 to wherever price is gonna go until we start to move sideways. The 0.618, however, in this scenario is a hard invalidation. We don't want this wave 4 to move to the 618, and if it does, we cannot count this as an ABC with then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inside wave C. Now, what does lower the probabilities for this particular scenario is what happened over here. Inside wave W, we look for a zigzag 5-wave A, 3-wave B, and then a diagonal here in wave C. But you can see this wave C is incredibly shallow, didn't even touch the 0.618 trend-based fib extension taken from the start to the end of A to the end of B, which is like a minimum target for a wave C. So it does lower the probabilities a bit, but by all means, what you are looking for here is sideways price action. Now, as mentioned, weekend is coming, could be interesting, and then another drop towards the downside where the target area over here is in confluence with the support, which is nice. So the target area for wave Y is green between the 1 and the 1.236. It's a trend-based fib extension taken from the start to the end of W to the end of X, confluence with the blue support box over here. And then you can also see I toggled on a blue 1.618, and the blue 1.618 is like the maximum target, maximum common target for a wave C. If you start to move below the 1.618 here, below 51.6k, the probabilities will go down for this scenario as well. So preferably in this scenario, you move towards the downside, hit support, and then find support as well, and then move back towards the upside. Now finally, a scenario where you're looking for almost the same, right? We have a 5-wave A, 3-wave B, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So a 5-wave impulse. But we are still working on wave 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then another 4, 5. In this case, your common target for C is 52.6 to 50.9k. You can see I also have the 1.618 on my chart, but that one is below the previous low here, which doesn't really make it relevant. So also in this scenario, of course, preferably you hold your support here. Short side note, below this box, there is only one more level that I have on my chart, which is this red line here at 51.4k, which is a point of control of the low over here. That is literally the final support that I have on my chart for price before taking out 49k pretty much. Now in this scenario, your invalidation is taking out 57k. Now, I do imagine that some of these scenarios together in one video can create a little bit of confusion, but in the probabilities, I will show you the confluence between the different moves, right? Because in a nutshell, in the bearish scenario, this is your invalidation, 57, and we look for price to range, move down, range, move down, range, move down. More downside to come, right? In the ABC scenario, your invalidation is exactly the same, and also here you look for a range down and then a range down. So two more moves to the downside basically. And in the WXY scenario, your 0.618 here is your invalidation, and also here you look for a sideways move and one more move towards the downside, right? And then in the bullish scenario, you don't really want more downside at the moment because you're so close to your invalidation. So you're looking for proof of strength and support, price moving back above support. And based on the bearish scenarios, the bulls want to move up and hit the 0.618 taken from the high to the low, right? Around 55.6k. That would be positive number one. But it doesn't invalidate bearish scenarios yet. You also want to take out 57k, and only if you take out 57k before range down, right? That is when we can be like, okay, we could be looking for a bigger retracement here towards the upside and some higher prices. At the moment, probabilities are not really positive for the bulls, no? If we then look at the CVD divergences, then a price here moved towards the downside with local bearish CVD divergences. The trend is to the downside, and seeing bearish CVDs building as price is moving to the downside is important. We now made a new low here, and we have to wait and see what kind of new divergences we get. So we need a little bit of patience. And if we then finally look at the probabilities of the different scenarios, then well, on the 50-minute time frame, of course, it happened while recording, but locally we were looking for that low to be taken because of the 886 touch, but that happened during the recording. And on the 4-hour time frame, the probabilities are at the moment higher for some more downside, either the bearish impulse, the ABC, or the WXY. All of these scenarios are basically leading to the same thing. So just to show again, bearish impulse, right? We look for 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. So 3 more pushes to the downside. In the ABC here, we are looking for 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. So 2 more pushes down. And in a WXY, you also still look for a range and 1 more push down. So the difference is how many pushes down you get, but that is something we can analyze by the time we're actually there. But these scenarios all have similar price action in the short term, and that is the reason why I put them all together in this number 1 spot here. So bearish impulse, ABC, WXY, they all lead to still local lower prices. Support below is important to observe the reaction, and the support below here is between 52.3 and 53K, and you saw the red line on my chart at 51.4K. On the number 2 spot, we then have the diagonal, but first, for probabilities to switch to some more upside, price really needs to move above 57K first, right? And keep an eye on that 0.618, because if you do hit it, you at least invalidate this scenario. It's almost like a game, which for me it is always, Elliott wave counting is always a game, but it's like a game of trying to cross away the scenarios, right? Okay, hit 50 or hit the 0.618, cool, we remove this scenario, but then we still have 57K, which is the most important level. So you really need to move above 57K to start giving some probabilities to a bigger move up. On the number 2 spot, diagonal, not a higher probability as long as we don't see local strength. At the moment, we have a local 886 touch, already played out during the video, and price is below the first support box, which is the box over here, right? There's no signs of strength. 3-minute bearish CVD divergences we're building over here in the range as well, right? Now we need to wait for a new range to form and new divergences, but at the moment, no sign of strength, and the invalidation for the diagonal is literally the next area of support on the chart here, which is the blue box, 52.8K. Side note, the weekend is around the corner, which most often results in a sideways price action. Locally, a price has also decelerated, at least at the moment in some way, right? We are starting to move a little bit more sideways. We had a sharp move down, and now we are moving more sideways, as you can see. So I won't be surprised to see a weekend range over here, right? And we will be analyzing during the weekend as well, but just make sure that in the weekend the content is a bit random. On Sunday we have the altcoin stream, but I won't be surprised if we are going to have a ranging weekend, which is most common, but Friday is not yet finished. So let's see what we get in the final hours of this day. I hope that this video was helpful or valuable to you. Please check out the brand new complete Elliott Waves Guide playlist I've made that shows you all you need to know about Elliott Waves. Thanks for watching and subscribing, and I'd like to see you at the next one. Bye bye.